Hey guys, it's Pikachu. Thanks so much for coming back to my channel. Today I'm excited to release the in-depth Joker guide. As you guys know, this was a highly anticipated video because I had talked about releasing it right as the patch came out, and as you guys know, Joker received a huge buff and a rework, making him the most broken ADC in the entire game right now. I'm sorry that this video took such a long time. Not only did I have issues with my throat, but I also wanted to take my time with this one, and I actually made a bunch of in-depth screenshot guides that really show you when to level up each ability, and I did a lot of test hero interactions to show you how to lane against just about every other mainstream ADC in the game when you're Joker. So without further ado, here is the in-depth Joker guide by Pikachu AOV. So, Joker is the most broken ADC right now in the meta, especially for solo queue. The rework of Joker's passive has made him unstoppable in 1v1 situations, capable of building items such as Bow of Slaughter efficiently, and greatly improved his damage per second potential. So let me briefly explain Joker's abilities after his rework. His S1 rocket. It hits heroes from a long range and can go through multiple heroes, but each subsequent hero it hits takes less damage. His S2 gives him immunity and grants immunity specifically to physical damage for 2 seconds, gives him a slight speed boost, and removes all slow effects. This is great for using it to dodge turret shots, dodge abilities like Hayate's ultimate, Arrow's claw, Kefani's ultimate, or simply by closing the distance to land an ultimate on an enemy he's chasing. Joker's S3, aka his ultimate, places a bomb that detonates like about 2 seconds later. So you can use this as a defensive mechanism to create distance between the engage and yourself, or for offensive purposes and chase down enemies and assassinate them like an assassin ADC. So now, after the rework, as you guys know, Joker received a new ability, which is the fact that he can stack empowered auto attacks, and he can stack these up to 5 times. It's really important to understand how he can recharge or stack these empowered auto attacks, so let me go through that right now. In terms of Joker's first ability, his rocket, he can obtain empowered auto stacks by using his rocket to hit any amount of minions to get 1 empowered auto stack. And if he uses his rocket to hit any hero, he can obtain 2 empowered auto stacks. If his rocket hits both a minion and a hero, he obtains 3 empowered auto stacks. Now in terms of his S2, the damage immunity and movement speed boost, if he uses it, he obtains 1 empowered auto attack stack. And in terms of his ultimate, he obtains 3 empowered auto attacks when it's used on a minion or a hero. Now remember that Joker's passive is that he gets these empowered auto stacks automatically over time. But nonetheless, it's really important as Joker to carefully manage your auto attacks and not waste those stacks, because they are the biggest buff to Joker after the rework, and they come in really handy and is one of the main reasons why Joker is the most broken ADC in the meta right now. So now let me talk about Joker's synergies and threats. The point of understanding Joker's synergies is so that when you see certain heroes during draft mode, either in rank or in a championship mode tournament, you know how to properly draft your team for the right support, and you know whether or not you should pick Joker. So in terms of supports for Joker, beyond the very broken supports currently in the meta, such as Mina or Zip, Joker has a lot of synergy with tanky supports who have ranged CC. CC stands for crowd control and is inclusive of things like slows or stuns. So Joker synergizes well with these heroes because Joker is a lane bully with high range. So it's much better for a support to be able to close the gap between enemies rather than Joker having to chase the enemies. With Baldum, being trapped in his ultimate is almost a guaranteed kill, as Joker can land a guaranteed ultimate and get into a good position. The Lumber ultimate also has a similar effect of trapping enemy heroes and slowing their movement from range. Like most ADCs, Joker needs a tank support to properly peel for him during team fights. Additionally, look to play Joker with hard CC or poke mages. The example I listed with Dirac and Alistair make it impossible for enemies to safely chase Joker, and if they get caught in their CC, Joker can easily land a full combo and turn the fight around. This achieves the peel effect of a tank on the mid lane role. Lastly, Joker is the classic go-to ADC when you have an ADC in the jungle, such as Elandor, Finnick, or Thorn, but don't want to pick a warrior in the ADC lane. Joker is the ideal double ADC combo as his burst and safety synergizes well with ADC jungles. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about threats to Joker. And when you see these threats, especially if you see multiple threats to Joker on the enemy team, I would recommend choosing an ADC other than Joker. Joker's primary threats are AP assassins. So for example, Pain can just delete Joker off of the map with close to no counterplay if Joker is alone. Additionally, Zata, who is untargetable during his ultimate, is also such an issue for Joker. If Joker gets trapped in a Darcy ultimate without it being cleansed, it's also pretty much GG. Finally, Kira's high damage and mobility, as well as the play around the vision and the terrain, is a very bad matchup for Joker, who usually plays very aggressively in lane. Since the damage immunity on Joker is so powerful, heroes like Nacroth, Murad, and other ADC assassins can't easily do meaningful damage to Joker. However, the few exceptions to this rule are OP assassins with such high mobility such as Irie and Aoi, who not only have high mobility but are also fairly broken this patch with their damage output. But since they're pretty difficult champions to play well, they're only threats if the players playing them are good. Lastly, global champions like Max can target Joker when he's low HP, and self-healing champions like Dextra or Tara make it really hard for Joker to successfully step up and hit the other heroes during team fights. Now let me show you some 1v1 Joker montages, and this will hopefully give you a little bit of insight as to how to play Joker into other ADCs to mimic the kind of 1v1 or 2v2 situation you'll be facing when you play Joker in the Dragon lane. So Joker can currently beat any ADC in a 1v1 situation starting from level 1. And here's a montage of Joker versus the most meta ADCs and an explanation as to why Joker wins. For starters, don't ever waste the empowered auto attacks on the wave randomly. Save up to at least 3 in your empowered auto bank, and ideally you can have a maximum of 5 before initiating a fight. And in this way, the empowered autos really make a difference after your ability combos, specifically after your ultimate. In terms of Joker versus Hayate, Joker can be thought of as a direct counter to Hayate in lane and 1v1. The key interaction is to pay attention to when Joker is using his S2 to immune Hayate's ultimate. Once you get that timing down, Joker never loses to Hayate in a 1v1 situation. Joker can poke Hayate beyond his range with his rocket and has more burst damage to the empowered auto attack stacks and his ultimate.
Everybody, smile!
Ultimate!
Everybody, smile!
In terms of Joker versus Laville, the key interaction for this matchup is for Joker's damage immunity to use it in accordance with Laville's Lucky Star passive enchantment. When fighting Laville 1v1, don't use the damage immunity early, wait until Laville has hit Joker 4 or 5 times first, and then press S2, thus immuning most of the damage amount. Also, use your empowered auto attack stacks on Laville first as fast as you can, then use ultimate on Laville afterwards. In this situation, Joker would most likely win every single one-on-one versus Laville. In terms of Joker versus Kayfani, Joker has much higher damage per second than Kayfani. As long as Joker has around 4 to 5 empowered auto attacks and his ultimate, Kayfani will always lose the trade no matter what. Look to immune Kayfani's ultimate with Joker's S2. In terms of Joker versus Violet, Joker can struggle against Violet due to Violet's long range and instantaneous burst. It becomes hard to time Joker's S2, and as long as Violet doesn't walk into Joker's auto attack range, Joker has a hard time closing the distance. In this situation, look to shove the wave, roam, or hit rockets in the bushes instead of all-in fighting. Some custom Joker build screenshots and guides that I've made from scratch, and I'll pair that with some Joker experimentation videos. This is where the new patch update magic comes in. Joker is no longer played with full attack damage, and you can see the inefficiency of scaling with just AD and how the AD ratio on Joker abilities is no better than 0.5. Rockets on Joker's ultimate and Joker's ultimate no longer do as much burst damage as before, replaced with the importance of empowered auto attacks. Thereby, you actually do more damage building attack speed, the effect of which when you do so makes Joker the most broken ADC in the entire game right now, and it's important to exploit him while he is still so strong. Now let's prove this in the testing trial. As you can see, the difference between the rocket while building full AD versus Slicksling is a measly 200 damage on the rocket and 300 damage on the ultimate for a full item difference. The rocket isn't guaranteed to land, and you don't want to waste your ultimate during team fights anyway, for the reasons we'll get into later. Now, let's look at a 3 to 4 second burst comparison. When it comes to burst damage, you can see because you actually do 45% attack speed more than the old build you do, and because of this, Joker does significantly more damage when it comes to burst. You can just imagine how much better this is when applied to a prolonged team fight when Joker is hitting multiple enemies. This attack speed build is the secret to exploiting Joker in the new patch, and what makes him the strongest ADC in the entire game. Now, let's get to the official build recommendations with Arcana. In terms of the first build, this is the standard ideal build for Joker in this patch, with all Arcana going towards flat attack damage because it offers a strong boost to Joker's early game. And as we mentioned before, in lane, Joker should win against any ADC, so that's why this is extra important. As you can notice here, with Joker having an extra 45% attack speed boost, it now makes fantastic use of the item Bow of Slaughter, which is an item that he wasn't capable of building before, and this item is also arguably the strongest marksman item in the entire game. The second build is against squishy enemy heroes, for example 2 ADCs or 2 mages, or just any composition with heroes that lack tankiness. And the adjustment we make here is to focus more on pure damage, as against bursty heroes, Joker won't get the chance to do prolonged damage over time, so we focus on AD. Because we focus on AD, we don't go for a Bow of Slaughter. Pay attention to adding 9% lifesteal with Arcana, as this will be your only source of sustain in the entire game. Now, this last build here is against a tanky enemy composition. As you saw from the trial, the combination of attack speed and Joker's empowered autos just shred through tanks late game, which makes the correct choice actually all attack speed Arcana in this case. The main difference is to switch the Muramasa as the preferred armor pierce item as opposed to rank breaker. You can see that the lifesteal item Bloodied Club with different options in when to build it. It is important that you manually go to the store and pre-order it, even if it's an item that naturally builds into Bow of Slaughter, to prioritize the gold spending. If you feel like you're getting poked out very often, then it's good to prioritize this item early, and you see the different points in where to pre-order it on the picture that I've shown here. Lastly, the most important item to Joker is perhaps the Fenrir's Tooth. It works so well with Joker's sustained burst kit, giving you extra damage so that your normal auto attacks when the enemies are in the 30% low health threshold start hitting like a truck. And it's honestly so much more valuable if you have a reliable support to have Fenrir's Tooth as opposed to Resurrect. Now, I'll give you guys some very important laning tips for Joker. 1. Use the rocket to clear the wave to avoid wasting empowered auto attack stacks. 2. Pressure the enemy ADC hard using the bushes, and don't stay in the actual lane and give the enemy vision. 3. If the enemy support roams and leaves the ADC there alone, pull the trigger and look for all possible plays always, because you will win. 4. Only use empowered auto attacks consecutively on the wave if you're trying hard to push the wave or to hit the tower. It's not a bad thing for the wave to push out in your side as it forces your enemies to play more forward, even though Joker is stronger. And 5. Aim the rockets through the minions aimed at the hero. That way, even if you miss, you'll still get one empowered auto attack stack off of hitting the minion wave. Now let me talk about Joker's 3 main early game, mid game, and late game power spikes. First of all, level 1. If you can get close to an ADC, level up your S2 instead of your rocket S1 first. With the damage immunity and 5 empowered auto attack stacks, you win the early game trade against any ADC very easily, automatically winning your lane. 2. After building Rank Breaker, Clave Sanctity, and War Boots, you have massive burst damage, and this is Joker's second power spike. You can look for one-shots on squishy targets, and have by far the most single target damage for an ADC at this point in the game. 3. After building your final item, Fenrir's Tooth, you're probably the most damage-dealing hero in the entire game for a single target, more than anybody else. That's why it's important for Joker to get gold and keep farming like a champion like Sinestria. In other words, after Joker completes his final item, Fenrir's Tooth, Joker should look to fight anybody who is squishy, because he will win and... yep, he's just super strong at that point, and that's his final power burst. Finally, I'll talk about a couple of important tips and tricks for Joker during team fights. First of all, Joker's ultimate is both a defensive and offensive tool. Never ultimate early on a tank in a team fight to try to do more damage. Instead, be patient and save it on a squishy hero, or use it defensively to create space between yourself and the engage, or between yourself and a specific hero that can one-shot you. Secondly, when the wave comes before a team fight, don't fall below 3 empowered auto attacks saved in your bank. Use your rocket, or just let the wave sit. Ideally, you want to have all 5 empowered auto attack stacks before starting a team fight. Thirdly, usually the tanks are in the front of the team and the squishies are in the back. It's absolutely okay to unload your empowered auto attacks on the tanks as long as these tanks aren't insanely regen-focused heroes like Tara or Dextra. Joker's empowered auto attack actually hurts quite a bit for tanks as well. Once they are low, they'll have to go back. That's when the carry-to-carry matchup comes. Having saved your S2 and S3, you can immediately ultimate and replenish your stacks quickly. Lastly, use your auto attacks during team fights. Please do not be that Joker that that stands there in a team fight shooting rockets and never use their auto attacks. In late game, even your normal auto attacks start hurting a lot, even without the empowered ones. So make sure you use your auto attacks in team fights, especially in the late game. Finally, I'm going to talk a little bit about the differences between the builds that I recommend in this guide versus some of the builds that you might have seen in some of the pro play games that have been going on recently using Joker. So some pro players do build Fafnir's Talon and Omniarms, and that's very early game focused. It is an early game build, and it focuses on providing bonus damage on Joker's empowered auto attacks while maximizing the auto attack speed. However, going AD and crit scales so much better in the mid and the late game for Joker, which is what the builds that I recommended here give. In fact, you'll lose the 1v1 to Laville and to Kafani going the pro build in the late game, especially in solo queue, in terms of damage output. Additionally, there's no sustained damage output anymore, as Joker's normal attacks now have no chance of crit, which means they barely do damage. So you'll see that the pro build, or the build that you've seen some pro players use, inclusive of Fafnir's and Omniarms, gives around 790 to 800 damage in total per hit, whereas the recommended build I've shown here goes anywhere from 1150 to 1350 for empowered auto attacks. And normal auto attacks in the pro build deal approximately 630 attack damage, whereas it can deal around 1000 sustained damage for our build that we've shown here. So the discrepancy gets even worse when it comes to the ultimate and the rocket, because the rocket and the ultimate scales with total attack damage. So given this explanation, I definitely think that when pro players built Fafnir's and Omniarms, not only did it emphasize an early game advantage on Joker at the expense of Joker's mid and late game advantage, I also think that it was very situational, and it definitely works better in a 5-man queue, but the builds that I've recommended here I think work best for the mid and the late game for Joker, and definitely work much better in terms of solo queue or duo queue or any queue that's not a 5-man queue. So there you have it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. This video did take quite a while to make because I had to synthesize a lot of information and get a lot of trial clips like I showed here, as well as do some in-depth damage calculations. And in addition to that, like I said, I did make the screenshots from scratch, so I hope that this video was helpful. Definitely let me know what you think, and let's chat in the comments. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you guys in my next video.